It was an ordinary day at the Lakers' practice court, the kind of day where everything seemed routine. The players moved through their drills with practiced ease, the squeak of sneakers and the rhythmic bounce of basketballs filling the air. Coaches shouted instructions, and teammates bantered, their voices carrying across the gym. The energy was high, but it was nothing out of the ordinary, just another day for the world's most celebrated basketball team. Then, it happened. A figure no taller than LeBron's waist confidently strolled into the gym. At first, nobody noticed. After all, it wasn't uncommon for fans or families to be around the edges of practice. But this figure didn't stay on the sidelines. Instead, the child, who couldn't have been more than 6 years old, walked straight to the center of the court. The gym's rhythm faltered. Balls stopped bouncing, conversations trailed off, and heads turned one by one. Players exchanged puzzled glances, their routines forgotten. The boy, dressed in an oversized jersey and sneakers that seemed too big for his small frame, stood boldly in the middle of it all, clutching a basketball nearly as big as he was. LeBron James, towering over everyone else in the gym, noticed the disruption and turned to see what was happening. He furrowed his brow in confusion, his eyes locking on the tiny intruder. "Who let a kid on the court?" LeBron joked, a grin tugging at the corners of his mouth. His deep voice carried across the gym, and a wave of laughter rippled through the room. But the boy wasn't laughing. "I'm here to play," he said, his voice steady and calm. There was no hint of hesitation, no sign of nerves. It wasn't a question, and it wasn't a request, it was a statement of fact. The room erupted in laughter again, this time louder and more incredulous. A 6-year-old? On an NBA court? The idea was ridiculous, and the players didn't hide their amusement. Some clapped their hands in mock applause, while others shook their heads in disbelief. But the boy didn't flinch. He stood his ground, his small hands gripping the basketball tightly. His expression was unchanging, his eyes fixed on LeBron. And that's when the laughter began to fade. There was something in the boy's eyes, something that wasn't typical for a child his age. Determination. Confidence. A spark of fearlessness that made even LeBron's smile falter. The gym grew quieter as players and coaches exchanged curious looks, unsure of what to make of the situation. LeBron stepped forward, his towering frame casting a long shadow over the boy. He crouched slightly, resting his hands on his knees so he could look the child in the eye. "Kid, you know this isn't a playground, right?" The boy nodded without breaking eye contact. "I know," he said simply. "That's why I'm here." LeBron raised an eyebrow, surprised by the boy's unwavering confidence. Behind him, some of the players chuckled again, but this time it was more subdued. They were starting to sense that this wasn't just some random kid who had wandered in by accident. "What's your name?" LeBron asked, his tone softening slightly. "Marcus," the boy replied. He didn't offer a last name, and he didn't explain how he had gotten into the gym. Just Marcus. "Well, Marcus," LeBron said, glancing at the ball in the boy's hands, "do you know who I am?" Marcus nodded again, his grip on the ball tightening. "You're LeBron James," he said matter-of-factly. "The best basketball player in the world." LeBron chuckled, shaking his head. "That's a big compliment, little man. But this court? This is for pros. For people who've spent their whole lives working to get here. You get what I'm saying?" Marcus tilted his head slightly, his gaze unwavering. "How would you know if I'm not good enough?" The question caught LeBron off guard. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. The room was so quiet now that you could hear the faint hum of the gym's overhead lights. The players, the coaches, even the janitor sweeping in the corner, all of them were waiting to see what would happen next. LeBron straightened up, a smile playing at the edges of his lips. "All right, Marcus," he said, his tone shifting to one of amusement. You've got my attention. What do you want to do? Marcus didn't hesitate. I want to play, he said firmly. LeBron laughed, the sound echoing through the gym. You want to play me? The boy nodded. This time, the laughter returned, louder and more incredulous than before. The idea was absurd, a 6-year-old challenging one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Some of the players doubled over with laughter, slapping their knees. A few called out playful taunts, "Hey, LeBron, don't go easy on him. Careful, King, he might cross you up." But Marcus didn't seem bothered. He stood there, holding his basketball, waiting for LeBron's response. LeBron glanced around the gym, his smile fading as he looked back at Marcus. There was something about this kid, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. It wasn't just the confidence, it was the way Marcus carried himself, like he belonged there. "All right, kid," LeBron said finally, his voice laced with curiosity. "Let's see what you've got." The gym erupted into cheers and applause, the players hyping up the moment like it was Game 7 of the finals. LeBron motioned for Marcus to step to the three-point line, a grin spreading across his face. "You get one shot," he said, crossing his arms over his chest. "Make it count." Marcus nodded, dribbling the ball a couple of times. The sound echoed in the now silent gym, every pair of eyes fixed on the tiny figure standing at the line. The boy paused, his small hands steady on the ball. He looked up at the hoop, his gaze focused and intent. Then, with a smooth motion, he launched the ball into the air. The gym held its breath. The ball soared through the air, its arc almost mesmerizing against the backdrop of the quiet gym. It wasn't a perfect release, but there was something deliberate about it, something precise. Every player, coach, and spectator watched with wide eyes, holding their collective breath. For a moment, it felt as if time itself had slowed. Then, the ball hit the rim with a soft clang and bounced up again. Everyone leaned forward, their anticipation palpable. It hit the backboard, teetered on the edge of the hoop for what felt like an eternity, and then, it dropped in. The gym erupted. Some players hooped and clapped, while others simply stood there, stunned. Even the coach, a seasoned man who'd seen countless jaw-dropping moments in his career, couldn't help but raise his eyebrows in surprise. Marcus, however, didn't celebrate. He calmly picked up the ball as if he had expected nothing less. His confidence was unshaken, his expression unreadable. He turned back to LeBron, holding the ball out. "Your turn," he said, his voice steady. LeBron chuckled, shaking his head in disbelief. "All right, Marcus," he said, taking the ball from the boy's hands. "You've got some skills, I'll give you that. But one lucky shot doesn't mean you're ready for this court." Marcus didn't argue. He simply crossed his arms and stepped back, leaving the court open for LeBron. LeBron dribbled the ball casually, his movements smooth and practiced. "Let me show you how it's done, little man," he said with a grin. He stepped back to the three-point line, squared up, and released the ball in one fluid motion. The swish of the net was crisp and clean, as if the hoop itself was applauding him. LeBron turned back to Marcus, a playful smirk on his face. "See that? That's how you shoot." But Marcus wasn't fazed. "You're good," he admitted, nodding slightly. "But can you guard me?" The gym fell silent again. This kid wasn't just confident, he was fearless. Challenging LeBron James to defend him. It was unheard of. LeBron's grin widened. He wasn't used to being called out, especially by someone who barely reached his hip. "You're serious?" he asked, genuinely curious. Marcus nodded again. "You said I should prove I'm ready for this court. Let's play." The room buzzed with excitement. Players started circling the court, their voices filled with encouragement and disbelief. "You gotta take him, King," one of them shouted. Don't go easy, though. LeBron looked around, then back at Marcus. All right, he said, spinning the ball in his hands. We'll play to 3. First to score 3 points wins. Deal. Marcus's eyes gleamed. Deal. The crowd backed away, forming a loose circle around the two. LeBron handed the ball to Marcus, giving him the first possession. Let's see what you've got, Marcus, LeBron said, lowering his stance. Marcus dribbled the ball, his small hands moving with surprising precision. He took a step forward, then quickly shifted to the left, attempting to get around LeBron. LeBron, to his credit, didn't underestimate the boy. He moved to block him, his large frame easily cutting off Marcus's path. But Marcus was quicker than anyone expected. With a sudden spin, he slipped past LeBron and darted toward the basket. The crowd gasped. LeBron recovered quickly, his long strides closing the gap in an instant. As Marcus leaped for a layup, LeBron's hand shot up, ready to swat the ball away. But Marcus anticipated it. At the last second, he adjusted mid-air, twisting his body and releasing the ball from an unexpected angle. It banked off the backboard and fell cleanly through the hoop. The gym erupted again, louder this time. LeBron stared at the boy, his mouth slightly open in disbelief. All right, he said, shaking his head with a grin. You've got some moves. Marcus didn't respond. He simply picked up the ball and passed it to LeBron. Your turn. LeBron took the ball, his competitive nature now fully engaged. All right, kid, he said, dribbling with purpose. Let's see if you can handle this. He moved forward, his powerful frame making it seem almost effortless. Marcus stood his ground, his small arms outstretched in defense. LeBron faked left, then right, trying to shake the boy off. But Marcus didn't bite. He stayed with him, his movements sharp and focused. It was as if he had studied LeBron's every move. Finally, LeBron spun around, using his size to create space. He jumped, releasing the ball with perfect form. The ball sailed through the air and sank into the hoop with another clean swish. The crowd cheered, but this time the excitement was mixed with a sense of growing respect for the boy. He wasn't just holding his own against one of the greatest players of all time, he was making it a real game. Marcus took the ball again, his face calm and unreadable. He dribbled up the court, his small sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. LeBron crouched low, his arms wide, ready to defend. Come on, Marcus, he said, his tone both playful and serious. Let's see what else you've got. Marcus didn't respond. He shifted his weight, feinted to the right, and then drove left, his speed catching even LeBron off guard. The boy stopped abruptly, pulling up for a jump shot just outside the key. LeBron lunged forward, his hand reaching for the ball. But Marcus released it just in time. The ball soared over LeBron's outstretched fingers and arced gracefully toward the hoop. Swish! The gym exploded with noise. Players clapped and cheered, some even jumping up and down in disbelief. Marcus had scored again. LeBron laughed, shaking his head as he picked up the ball. All right, he said, his competitive edge now fully ignited. No more messing around. The game continued, each possession more intense than the last. Marcus's movements were quick and calculated, while LeBron used his size and experience to dominate the court. Point by point, the game unfolded like a story, with both players pushing themselves to their limits. The crowd was completely engrossed, their cheers and gasps filling the air. And through it all, Marcus never lost his composure. Every move, every shot, every decision, it was as if he belonged there. As if this court, this game, this moment, was exactly where he was meant to be. For Marcus, this wasn't just a game. It was his chance to prove he could hold his own, even against the best. Marcus stepped back, his face calm and steady despite being surrounded by towering athletes and skeptical eyes. His small hands tightened around the basketball, and for a brief moment, it was as if the world outside the gym didn't exist. LeBron crossed his arms, a mix of amusement and curiosity on his face. Around the gym, players whispered to one another, their voices tinged with disbelief. "This kid's got guts," someone muttered. "No way he's serious," another said, shaking his head. The coach leaned against a wall, arms folded, watching the scene unfold with a bemused expression. Even the assistant trainers and staff paused what they were doing, their attention fully on Marcus. The janitor, broom in hand, stood in the corner with a smirk. "This ought to be good," he said to no one in particular. Marcus, however, didn't seem to notice or care. He dribbled the ball slowly, testing the court beneath his sneakers. His movements were deliberate, almost methodical, like he was measuring the space around him. "All right, Marcus," LeBron said, his deep voice cutting through the low murmur of the room. "Clock's ticking. Show us something." Marcus nodded, dribbling toward the three-point line. He glanced at the basket, then at the players who were now openly watching. Their skepticism was practically radiating off them, but Marcus seemed immune to it. He stopped at the line, his tiny frame dwarfed by the massive court and the towering hoop. The ball bounced in a steady rhythm as he eyed the rim. Then, without a word, he stepped back, planted his feet, and launched the ball. The gym grew silent as the ball soared through the air. It wasn't a textbook shot, it wobbled slightly, its trajectory a little too flat. But it was clear that Marcus wasn't just throwing it up there for fun. The ball hit the backboard with a loud clang, bounced off the rim, and ricocheted to the side. A few chuckles erupted from the sidelines. "Told you," someone said under their breath. But Marcus didn't react. He jogged after the ball, scooped it up, and dribbled back to the three-point line. His face remained calm, focused, as if the miss hadn't fazed him in the slightest. LeBron raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "You're gonna try again?" he asked. Marcus didn't answer. He lined up his shot, adjusted his grip, and launched the ball again. This time, it had a better arc. The ball sailed toward the hoop, kissed the rim, and bounced out again. More laughter broke out, louder this time. A couple of players clapped mockingly, and the janitor shook his head with a chuckle. "Nice try, kid," one player called out. But Marcus still didn't react. He retrieved the ball, dribbled back, and reset himself. LeBron watched him carefully now, his amusement fading into something closer to respect. There was something about the way Marcus moved, something deliberate, almost determined. He wasn't playing around, and he wasn't giving up. "All right," LeBron said, stepping closer. "Let's see what happens if I guard you." The room buzzed with excitement. Players started crowding around the court, their voices filled with anticipation. "Oh, this is gonna be good," one of them said, grinning. LeBron crouched into a defensive stance, his massive frame towering over Marcus. "Come on, little man," he said, a playful edge to his tone. "Let's see what you've got." Marcus nodded, his eyes locking onto LeBron's. He started dribbling, his small hands moving quickly and confidently. He feinted left, then right, testing LeBron's reaction. LeBron moved with him, his movements smooth and effortless. He wasn't trying too hard, just enough to keep the boy in check. Marcus drove to the right, his speed surprising for someone so small. He darted toward the basket, but LeBron's long strides easily cut him off. "Not so fast," LeBron said, grinning. Marcus stopped abruptly, pivoted, and spun around, trying to create space. He pulled up for a jump shot just outside the key. LeBron reached up, his hand towering over the boy's release point. The ball arced high, barely clearing LeBron's outstretched fingers, and sailed toward the hoop. It hit the backboard, bounced off the rim, and dropped out. The crowd groaned in unison, a mix of disappointment and surprise. But Marcus didn't show any frustration. He grabbed the ball again and dribbled back to the three-point line. LeBron straightened up, his curiosity growing. "You're not giving up, are you?" he asked. Marcus shook his head. "Nope." LeBron smiled. "All right, then. Let's keep going." The next few minutes played out like a spectacle. Marcus drove, pivoted, and shot with everything he had, while LeBron countered him with ease. Each time Marcus missed, he simply grabbed the ball and tried again, his determination never wavering. The laughter and skepticism that had filled the gym earlier began to fade. Players who had been smirking and joking were now watching intently, their expressions serious. Even the janitor had stopped smirking, his broom forgotten in his hands. LeBron, too, had shifted his approach. What had started as a light-hearted challenge was turning into something else entirely. He was no longer playing just to humor the boy, he was playing to understand him. "All right, Marcus," LeBron said after the boy's latest shot bounced off the rim. "Why are you really here? What's this all about?" Marcus paused, holding the ball against his chest. He looked up at LeBron, his expression unwavering. "I want to prove I can play," he said simply. LeBron stared at him for a moment, then nodded. "All right, kid. Let's see if you can back that up." The gym grew even quieter as the game continued, the tension thick in the air. Marcus's confidence and resilience were starting to shift the mood. What had begun as a moment of ridicule was turning into something else entirely, a test of will, a challenge to expectations. And Marcus wasn't backing down. Marcus stood at the top of the key, dribbling the ball with a rhythm that seemed almost hypnotic. The once skeptical crowd had gone from chuckling to watching with rapt attention. The tension in the gym was almost tangible, a strange mix of disbelief and anticipation. LeBron, standing in front of Marcus, had shifted his posture. No longer relaxed and playful, his stance was now serious. He wasn't holding back anymore. Marcus had earned that much. "All right, kid," LeBron said, his deep voice resonating through the gym. "Let's see what you're really made of." Marcus didn't reply. His gaze was locked onto LeBron's, his expression unreadable. The gym, once filled with murmurs and laughter, was now silent. Every player, coach, and onlooker was glued to the moment. Marcus took a quick step forward, then crossed the ball between his legs, shifting his weight to the other side. LeBron moved with him, his size and reach making it nearly impossible to find a gap. But Marcus was relentless. He darted to the left, then spun back to the right, his movements quick and precise. LeBron stayed in front of him, his feet shuffling, his hands up, blocking every possible angle. Then, with a sudden burst of speed, Marcus drove to the right, slipping past LeBron's extended arm. The crowd gasped as Marcus darted toward the basket. LeBron recovered quickly, his long strides closing the gap in an instant. As Marcus leapt for a layup, LeBron's hand shot up, ready to block the shot. But Marcus had anticipated it. At the last second, he shifted his hand under the ball and executed a perfect reverse layup. The ball kissed the underside of the backboard and rolled cleanly into the hoop. The gym exploded with cheers and shouts of surprise. "Did you see that?" one player yelled, his hands on his head. "No way," another shouted. Even LeBron looked momentarily stunned. He turned to Marcus, shaking his head with a grin. "All right, Marcus," he said, his tone a mix of respect and disbelief. "You've got some moves." Marcus didn't celebrate. He jogged back to the three-point line, picking up the ball along the way. His expression was calm, his focus unshaken. LeBron passed him with a slight chuckle. "You don't even crack a smile, huh?" Marcus looked up at him and shrugged. "It's not over yet." LeBron nodded, impressed. All right then. Let's keep going. For the next few minutes, the gym became a stage for one of the most unusual matchups anyone had ever seen. Marcus, small and scrappy, faced off against LeBron, one of the greatest players of all time. The crowd was no longer whispering or laughing. They were on their feet, cheering and clapping with every move. Marcus continued to push himself, weaving through defenders, launching shots, and playing with a level of intensity that seemed impossible for a 6-year-old. He wasn't perfect, he missed some shots, stumbled on a few drives, and struggled against LeBron's sheer size and strength. But he never stopped. And with every move he made, the respect in the room grew. "Kid's got heart," one of the players muttered, nodding in approval. "More than heart," the coach said, his eyes fixed on the court. "He's got skill. Raw, but real." LeBron, now fully engaged, found himself enjoying the challenge. He was used to playing against the best, but there was something different about Marcus. Something that reminded him of his younger self, the determination, the grit, the unshakable belief that he belonged on the court, no matter what anyone else thought. After another basket by Marcus, a clean jumper from just inside the three-point line, LeBron called for a break. He walked over to the boy, clapping his hands. "All right, kid," he said, his voice warm but firm. "You've shown us what you can do. Now, tell me what's driving you. Why are you here?" Marcus held the ball against his chest, his breathing heavy but controlled. He looked up at LeBron, his eyes steady. "I want to prove I belong," he said simply. LeBron raised an eyebrow. "Belong where?" Marcus hesitated for the first time, as if searching for the right words. "Here," he said finally, gesturing to the court. "With the best. I want to show that it doesn't matter how small you are or how young you are. If you've got the game, you've got the game." The room fell silent again. LeBron studied Marcus for a moment, his expression thoughtful. Then he nodded. "All right," he said. "I respect that. But it takes more than heart and talent to make it here. It takes discipline, hard work, and time. Are you ready for that?" Marcus nodded without hesitation. "I'm ready." LeBron smiled, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Then let's see how far you can go." The gym erupted in applause, the players and staff clapping and cheering for Marcus. What had started as a moment of skepticism and doubt had turned into a celebration of his determination and grit. But for Marcus, it was only the beginning. LeBron dribbled the ball and waved Marcus forward with a grin. The gym buzzed with energy now, players and staff edging closer to watch the unfolding duel. "All right, Marcus," LeBron said, towering over him like a giant. "Show me what you've got." Marcus didn't flinch. His eyes locked on LeBron's, his expression calm and focused. The ball hit the hardwood with a steady rhythm as LeBron advanced toward the pint-sized challenger. Marcus crouched low, his tiny hands ready, his feet moving with precision. He wasn't just playing defense, he was studying LeBron, anticipating his next move. LeBron took a step to the left, testing him. Marcus shuffled to block him, quick as lightning. LeBron smirked and spun right, aiming for the basket, but Marcus darted in, poking the ball loose with surprising agility. The crowd gasped as Marcus snagged the loose ball and sprinted to the other end of the court. His small legs moved like pistons, his sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. LeBron was on him in seconds, his long strides closing the gap effortlessly. But Marcus didn't slow down. He reached the basket, stopped on a dime, and feinted left. LeBron moved to block him, but Marcus spun to the right, laying the ball gently off the backboard. The gym exploded in cheers. "Did he just do that?" one player yelled, his jaw dropping. LeBron retrieved the ball, shaking his head with a chuckle. "All right, Marcus," he said. "You're full of surprises. But let's see if you can handle this. The next play was all LeBron. He dribbled with purpose, moving like a freight train toward the basket. Marcus stayed in front of him, his small frame dwarfed by LeBron's power. LeBron spun, faked, and then went for a fadeaway jumper. Marcus jumped as high as he could, his hands outstretched, but the ball sailed cleanly over him and swished through the net. "Too easy," LeBron said with a grin, giving Marcus a playful nudge. But Marcus didn't seem fazed. He grabbed the ball, jogged back to the three-point line, and reset. Now the crowd was fully invested. The laughter and disbelief had long since faded, replaced by genuine excitement. Marcus dribbled, eyeing LeBron. His movements were sharp, deliberate. He faked left, then drove right, slipping past LeBron with a burst of speed. LeBron recovered quickly, blocking his path to the hoop. But Marcus didn't hesitate. He pulled up for a jumper just inside the arc, the ball leaving his hands with perfect rotation. Swish! The crowd roared again. Even LeBron had to nod in appreciation. All right, LeBron said, his tone more serious now. "You've got some skills, kid. But let's see if you can keep this up." The game continued, and with every play, Marcus revealed more about himself. He wasn't just talented, he was relentless. He drove to the basket with fearless determination, his movements calculated and precise. But it wasn't just his offense that stood out. On defense, Marcus was a pest. He poked at the ball, disrupted passing lanes, and even managed to steal the ball from LeBron once. "That's it, Marcus," one of the players shouted, clapping. The gym had transformed. What started as a curiosity, a 6-year-old challenging an NBA superstar, was now something else entirely. Marcus wasn't just keeping up, he was earning respect. Between plays, Marcus wiped sweat from his brow and caught his breath. LeBron approached him, leaning down slightly. "All right, kid," LeBron said, his voice low enough for only Marcus to hear. "You've got heart. But why are you really here? What's driving you?" Marcus hesitated for the briefest moment. Then he looked up at LeBron, his eyes filled with determination. "I want to prove it doesn't matter how small you are or how young you are," Marcus said. "If you work hard, you can play with the best." LeBron straightened, his expression thoughtful. For a moment, he saw a reflection of his younger self in Marcus, the same fire, the same hunger to prove everyone wrong. "All right," LeBron said, nodding. "Let's keep going." As the game continued, Marcus began to reveal even more. His plays were clever, his movements unpredictable. It was clear that he had studied the game, learning from players much older and more experienced than him. "Who taught you how to play like this?" one of the players asked during a brief break. "My mom," Marcus said simply, taking a sip of water. The room fell silent for a moment. "Your mom," the player repeated, raising an eyebrow. Marcus nodded. "She used to play. She's the best I've ever seen." The simplicity of his answer struck a chord. The players exchanged glances, their skepticism melting away. LeBron crouched beside Marcus, resting a hand on his shoulder. "Your mom sounds amazing," he said. "What does she think about you being here today?" Marcus hesitated again, his gaze dropping to the floor. "She doesn't know I'm here," he admitted. The room grew even quieter. LeBron studied the boy for a moment, then nodded. "All right," he said. "Let's make sure she's proud when she finds out." The next few plays were electric. Marcus continued to push himself, surprising everyone with his skill and determination. But beneath the surface, the players and staff began to sense that there was more to Marcus's story than he was letting on. LeBron, in particular, couldn't shake the feeling that the boy's drive came from something deeper, something personal. As Marcus sank another shot, the gym erupted once more. But this time, the cheers weren't just for his skills. They were for the resilience and heart of a boy who refused to back down, no matter the odds. And though Marcus didn't say it, everyone could see it in his eyes. This wasn't just a game to him. It was something much bigger. Marcus didn't stop, not even as sweat began to soak his shirt and his small legs visibly wobbled. The boy's energy seemed to come from some hidden well, a force stronger than physical strength alone. Each time he squared up against LeBron or dashed past one of the other players who had joined in to test him, his resolve only seemed to harden. The gym became an arena of mounting tension. What had started as a playful challenge had evolved into something far more serious. The players, coaches, and even the staff weren't just watching a kid play basketball, they were witnessing a battle of will and determination. LeBron raised his hand for a timeout, his chest heaving slightly as he grabbed a towel. "Kid," he said, catching Marcus's eye, "where do you get the energy? You're running circles around us." Marcus shrugged as he caught his breath. "When you want something bad enough, you find a way," he said simply. LeBron raised an eyebrow. "What exactly is it you want, Marcus?" For the first time, Marcus hesitated. He glanced at the crowd gathered around the gym, then at the court beneath his sneakers. Finally, he looked up at LeBron. "I want to prove I'm not too small," he said, his voice steady but softer now. "That I can do what anyone else can do, maybe even better." The simplicity of his words hit harder than anything grandiose could have. LeBron nodded slowly, a flicker of understanding crossing his face. "Fair enough," LeBron said, tossing Marcus the ball. "But the game's not just about proving people wrong. It's about what's inside. Show me that, Marcus. Show all of us." Marcus didn't answer. He stepped back to the top of the key, dribbling with a purpose that silenced the gym once more. The crowd watched as he squared up against LeBron again, his movements deliberate. But this time, Marcus didn't just rely on speed or flashy moves. He started using his brain. He noticed the slight hesitation in LeBron's defensive stance, the tiny fraction of a second where the superstar shifted his weight. Marcus made his move. He crossed the ball to his left, pulling LeBron toward him, then stepped back sharply, creating just enough space to launch a high-arcing shot over LeBron's outstretched arm. The ball sailed through the air, the room holding its collective breath. Swish! The crowd erupted once again, louder than ever. LeBron chuckled, shaking his head. "You've got court vision too, huh? All right, Marcus, you've earned another round." But Marcus wasn't smiling. He jogged to pick up the ball, the intensity in his eyes never wavering. As the game continued, something began to shift. Marcus wasn't just playing to prove himself anymore, he was playing with a purpose that ran deeper. He dove for loose balls, took hits without flinching, and passed with precision that elevated everyone else on the court. LeBron noticed it first. "He's not just trying to score," LeBron murmured to one of his teammates during a brief pause. "He's playing to make everyone better." The teammate nodded. "It's like he sees the whole court at once." Even the coach, who had been leaning against the wall with folded arms, now stood upright, his eyes narrowing in focus. "That kid's not just talented," he muttered. "He's a leader." As if to confirm it, Marcus shouted an instruction to one of the players who had joined in. "Cut to the basket," he called, his voice ringing clear across the gym. The player, an NBA veteran, hesitated for a moment but followed Marcus's advice. Marcus threaded a pass through a pair of defenders, the ball landing perfectly in the player's hands for an easy layup. "Yo, did he just tell me what to do?" the player said, laughing as he jogged back. "Yeah," another teammate replied, grinning. And it worked. The dynamic had changed. Marcus wasn't just a kid trying to prove himself anymore. He was becoming the heartbeat of the court, the one everyone started looking to for the next play. And yet, as the minutes passed, Marcus's stamina began to waver. His movements slowed, his breathing grew heavier, but his determination never faltered. LeBron stepped in front of Marcus, blocking his path to the basket again. "You're running on fumes, kid," LeBron said, a note of concern in his voice. "Maybe it's time to call it a day." But Marcus shook his head. "Not yet," he said, dribbling around LeBron with a quick burst of energy that seemed to come out of nowhere. LeBron turned to follow him, but Marcus had already launched another shot. The ball hit the backboard and rolled in. The crowd roared again, but this time, their cheers were mixed with something else. "Aw! Where does he get this from?" someone asked. "Did you see the way he read that play? It's like he's been doing this for years," another said. The players began to whisper among themselves. "He's not just good," one said. "He's special." LeBron wiped his face with a towel, then looked at Marcus, who was bent over, catching his breath. "Marcus," LeBron called, walking toward him, "you've shown us what you can do. Now it's time to tell us the truth." Marcus straightened, his chest rising and falling as he wiped his forehead. "What do you mean?" he asked, though his voice betrayed a hint of unease. LeBron crossed his arms. "You didn't just walk in here to play a game. There's something driving you. What is it?" The room fell silent again. All eyes were on Marcus. The boy hesitated, his gaze darting around the gym. Then he sighed, gripping the ball tightly. "My mom," he said quietly. LeBron crouched down to meet his eyes. "Your mom?" Marcus nodded. "She's the reason I started playing. She used to tell me that basketball isn't just about winning. It's about teamwork, about heart, about never giving up." LeBron tilted his head. "So, where is she? Does she know you're here?" Marcus's expression faltered for the first time. "She can't be here," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "She passed away last year." The weight of his words settled over the gym like a blanket. "She used to say I could do anything if I worked hard enough," Marcus continued, his voice steadying. "So I'm here to prove she was right." The gym was silent. Even the sound of a basketball bouncing in the distance had stopped. LeBron stared at Marcus for a long moment, then placed a hand on his shoulder. "Marcus," he said softly, "your mom would be proud. You're proving something a lot of people twice your age haven't figured out yet." Marcus blinked, his eyes glistening, but he didn't let the tears fall. He nodded, gripping the ball tightly. "Let's finish this game," LeBron said, standing up and clapping his hands. "Not for me, not for you, for her." The gym erupted in applause once more. Marcus, with renewed determination, squared up again. And as the game continued, everyone watching knew they weren't just seeing a basketball prodigy, they were witnessing the spirit of a boy who refused to give up on his dreams. LeBron blinked, momentarily stunned. "Me? On TV?" Marcus nodded, his grin widening. "Every game. Every move. I watched you every day. I practiced in my driveway until I could do them like you." The gym erupted in murmurs. Some of the players laughed in disbelief. "This kid's been studying LeBron like homework," one of them said, shaking his head. LeBron chuckled, but his eyes stayed fixed on Marcus, curious now. "You're saying you learned all this just by watching me play on TV? No coach? No team?" Marcus shrugged. "My mom used to play videos of your highlights. She said, if you want to be great, study the greatest. So, I did." The crowd grew quiet, absorbing the weight of Marcus's words. LeBron's expression softened. "You've got heart, Marcus. But there's more to the game than copying moves. Basketball is about reading people, adapting in the moment. You can't learn that from a screen." Marcus straightened, clutching the ball tightly. "I know that. That's why I'm here to learn from the best." LeBron raised an eyebrow, impressed by the boy's confidence but still skeptical. All right, let's see what else you've got. No more copying. Show me your game. The next play began. This time, Marcus didn't mimic. He improvised. He darted to the right, then quickly spun left, leaving LeBron momentarily off balance. Marcus took a daring layup against the towering defense. The ball kissed the backboard and dropped in. The gym erupted again, louder than ever. Marcus jogged back on defense, his face serious. LeBron laughed, shaking his head. Okay, I see you. But something shifted in LeBron's demeanor. He wasn't just testing the boy anymore, he was challenging him. LeBron turned up his intensity, his moves faster, his blocks more precise. Marcus didn't back down. Every time LeBron pushed, Marcus found a way to push back. He anticipated passes, adjusted his shots mid-air, and even snatched a rebound from players twice his size. The crowd was no longer murmuring, they were cheering, clapping, and shouting Marcus's name. But Marcus's breathing grew heavier. His small frame couldn't keep up the relentless pace much longer. Still, he didn't stop. LeBron noticed. He called for a brief pause, walking over to Marcus. You've got nothing to prove, kid. You're already something special. Take a break. Marcus shook his head, his determination blazing. Not yet. There's one more thing I need to do. LeBron tilted his head, intrigued. What's that? Marcus pointed to the top of the key. One last shot. You and me. The gym quieted. All eyes were on them. LeBron smirked, stepping back to give Marcus space. All right, let's see it. Marcus dribbled slowly, his eyes locked on LeBron. Time seemed to slow as he sized up the court, calculating his move. He took one hard step to the right, then spun back to the left, his speed catching LeBron off guard. As LeBron recovered, Marcus stepped back beyond the three-point line and launched the ball. The gym held its breath as the ball soared through the air, spinning in a perfect arc. Swish! The room exploded. Cheers, applause, even whistles echoed off the walls. Players rushed to high-five Marcus, while others simply stood there, shaking their heads in disbelief. LeBron turned to look at the boy, a genuine smile spreading across his face. Marcus, he said, walking over, I don't know where you came from, but you're the real deal. Marcus grinned, exhausted but triumphant. Thanks, LeBron. The coach stepped forward, clapping his hands. All right, kid, you've impressed everyone here. But I've got to ask, how old are you really? 6-year-olds don't play like that. Marcus laughed, holding up 6 fingers. I told you, I'm 6. My mom always said age doesn't matter if you've got the drive. LeBron crouched to Marcus's level, resting a hand on his shoulder. Your mom sounds like a wise woman. Marcus's smile faltered for a moment, and he looked down. She was. Everything I do is for her. LeBron's eyes softened. She'd be proud of you, kid. And I think we all learned something today. You don't have to be big to make a big impact. The gym burst into applause again, this time not just for Marcus's skills, but for the heart and courage he had shown. As the players began to pack up, LeBron walked over to Marcus one last time. You're gonna go far, Marcus. But remember, it's not just about basketball. It's about the person you become along the way. Marcus nodded, clutching his basketball tightly. I won't forget. And as he walked out of the gym that day, everyone watching knew they had just witnessed something extraordinary, not just the rise of a prodigy, but the spark of greatness in its purest form. Marcus stood there, his small figure illuminated by the glow of the gym lights, his breathing still labored but his resolve unwavering. The crowd around him had thinned slightly, but those who remained, including LeBron and the team, were buzzing with excitement and awe. LeBron crossed his arms, studying the boy again, a genuine smile playing at the corners of his mouth. All right, Marcus, you've got skills, no doubt about that. But talent only gets you so far. There's a lot more to this game and to life than just what happens on the court. Marcus nodded, his gaze steady. I know. That's why I'm here. To learn. To be better. The coach stepped forward, still skeptical but clearly impressed. Kid, I've seen players train for years and not develop half the instincts you've got. But I've gotta ask, where does it all come from? How'd you even get here today? Marcus hesitated for a moment, looking down at the ball in his hands. His small fingers traced the grooves as if seeking the words hidden within the leather. Finally, he looked up, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. My mom used to bring me to every basketball game she could. She said basketball was more than a game, it was life. She'd point to players like LeBron and say, watch them. Study them. Because greatness isn't just about skill, it's about heart. LeBron listened intently, his expression softening. Marcus continued, his voice growing stronger. She told me to dream big, even if people laughed. When she got sick, when we couldn't go to games anymore, she'd still sit with me and watch. Even when she couldn't talk, her eyes would light up every time I hit a shot in the driveway. The gym grew so quiet that even the faint hum of the lights seemed loud. She passed away last year, Marcus said, his voice trembling just slightly. But I promised her I'd keep dreaming. And I promised her I'd meet you one day, LeBron. That's why I'm here. LeBron's face changed, a mix of admiration and empathy. He reached out and rested a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Marcus, that's the kind of story that reminds all of us why we started playing in the first place. You didn't just come here to show off, you came here to honor her. Marcus nodded, blinking back the tears that threatened to fall. The coach cleared his throat, his voice softer than usual. Well, Marcus, you've already taught us all something today. You've shown us what heart looks like. Another player chimed in, yeah, kid, you've got more guts than half the rookies I've seen. But Marcus wasn't done yet. He gripped the ball tighter and looked up at LeBron. One more game. Just you and me. Please. LeBron raised an eyebrow. Marcus, you've already proved yourself. You've got nothing left to prove. Marcus shook his head. This isn't about proving anything. It's about finishing what I started. The determination in his voice left no room for argument. LeBron smiled, nodding his head. All right, kid. One last game. But don't hold back, okay? Marcus grinned, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten. They took their positions on the court, the atmosphere electric. This wasn't just a game anymore, it was a story unfolding, a moment that everyone present would remember for the rest of their lives. Marcus dribbled with precision, his eyes scanning LeBron's every move. He knew he couldn't match LeBron's physicality, but he didn't need to. He relied on his instincts, his quickness, and his ability to anticipate. LeBron tested him, pushing harder than before. He blocked shots, intercepted passes, and used his size to dominate the paint. But Marcus kept coming, each move more creative than the last. On one play, Marcus pulled off a behind-the-back dribble that left LeBron momentarily off balance. He drove to the basket, leapt as high as he could, and banked the ball in off the glass. The crowd erupted. Even LeBron couldn't help but laugh, shaking his head in disbelief. All right, little man, LeBron said, wiping sweat from his brow. You're full of surprises. But the climax came in the final moments of the game. Marcus, visibly tired, stood at the top of the key, dribbling slowly. LeBron crouched low, ready to defend. You're not getting past me this time, LeBron said, a playful grin on his face. Marcus didn't respond. He took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, and began his move. He crossed to the right, then quickly spun left. LeBron followed, his long arms outstretched. Marcus planted his foot, stepped back just beyond the three-point line, and launched the ball. The gym fell silent as the ball soared through the air. It seemed to hang there forever, spinning, glinting under the bright lights. Swish! The ball dropped through the net without even grazing the rim. The gym exploded with cheers, shouts, and applause. Players rushed to Marcus, lifting him onto their shoulders. LeBron clapped, shaking his head in amazement. "Kid, you've got something special. I mean it." Marcus, perched on the shoulders of NBA players, grinned ear to ear. "Thanks, LeBron. For everything." As the noise died down, LeBron walked over and extended a hand to Marcus. "You've got a long way to go, but if you keep this up, there's no limit to what you can do. And if you ever need advice or someone to train with, you've got my number now." Marcus's eyes widened. "Really?" LeBron nodded. "Really?" And with that, Marcus walked off the court, his head held high, his dreams even bigger than before. For everyone in that gym, it was clear, this wasn't the end of Marcus's story, it was just the beginning. The gym remained silent, save for the soft squeak of sneakers on the court and the distant hum of the scoreboard ticking away. Marcus stood tall, despite his small frame, his chest rising and falling with the weight of the moment. He had done it. He had shown LeBron James, and the entire Lakers team, that he was more than just a kid with a big dream. He was a force to be reckoned with. LeBron looked down at the boy, his gaze filled with something that wasn't just admiration, but a deep respect. It wasn't every day that someone younger, smaller, and less experienced could stand on the same court and challenge him like Marcus had. The entire atmosphere in the gym had shifted. The laughter, the smirks, the doubts all had disappeared, replaced by a quiet awe. "You mean to tell me, you learned all this from watching me?" LeBron asked again, still trying to wrap his head around it. His voice was filled with disbelief, but there was a soft chuckle beneath it. How many players had he faced who were trained by the best coaches, had years of experience, and yet still couldn't perform like Marcus had? And this kid? He had done it by studying clips on a screen. Marcus nodded, his eyes steady and unblinking. "Every game. Every highlight. I watched you. Because if I wanted to be the best, I had to learn from the best." LeBron studied the boy for a long moment, then smiled. "You're not just good at basketball, kid. You've got heart. That's what matters." He ruffled Marcus's hair, and for the first time, Marcus felt the weight of the legendary athlete's approval. It wasn't just about the incredible shots or slick moves anymore. It was about the courage it took to step onto that court, to face the world's best without fear. The team erupted into applause. Marcus, the 6-year-old who had walked into the Lakers practice gym with nothing but a ball and a dream, had earned their respect. They had all watched him take on one of the greatest players in the history of the game, and not only hold his own, but impress everyone with his skills and determination. One of the players, a big man who had been quietly watching from the sidelines, clapped Marcus on the back. "Man, that shot at the end crazy. I've been in the league for years, and I still don't hit 'em like that," he said, laughing. Another player, a younger rookie, grinned and shook his head. "I thought this was a joke when he first came in. But this kid? He's for real. Maybe one day we'll see him in the NBA, huh?" LeBron turned back to Marcus, his face softening. "Keep working, Marcus. I'm serious. If you keep at it, and you don't let up, you might just find yourself here one day. Not just on this court, but with the best of the best." Marcus's eyes shone with something deeper than just excitement. It was the spark of possibility of knowing that his dream could be within reach. He had proven himself today, but the journey was far from over. The hardest part was still ahead of him. But with the lessons he had learned, and the encouragement he'd received, Marcus knew that nothing could stop him now. The coach, who had been standing quietly in the background, stepped forward, his arms folded across his chest. "All right, Marcus. You've impressed every single person here today. And it's not just because you can hit a three-pointer or pull off crazy moves. It's your attitude. The way you stepped up, the way you didn't back down when things got tough. That's what we all respect." Marcus smiled shyly. I just want to be like you guys." The coach gave him a nod. "You're well on your way, kid. But remember, no one gets to the top alone. You've got to work with others, listen to them, and never stop learning. Keep that in mind, and the sky's the limit." LeBron looked at the coach, then back to Marcus. "He's right. It's not just about skills. It's about who you are when the game is on the line. You've got that part down. Now keep building the rest." He turned to the team. "You hear that, guys? This kid's got it. We could all learn something from him today." The team gave Marcus a standing ovation. And though he was small and still catching his breath, Marcus felt taller than ever. As the applause died down, LeBron walked over to the side of the court, motioning for Marcus to follow him. "Hey, kid. Can I talk to you for a minute?" Marcus, still on a high from the game, nodded quickly and followed him. They stood near the bench, away from the rest of the team. "I want you to remember something," LeBron said, his tone serious but kind. "You've got a gift. But gifts don't make you great. It's the work. The hours spent training, the discipline, the sacrifices. You've got the heart, that much is clear. But that's just the start." Marcus listened intently, nodding slowly. LeBron continued, his voice steady. "There are going to be people who doubt you. People who think you're too young, too small, or not good enough. But if you believe in yourself, like you showed today, there's nothing anyone can say to stop you." Marcus's gaze dropped for a second, then he looked up again, his eyes filled with determination. "I won't stop. I promise." LeBron smiled. "I believe you. And don't forget, no matter how big you get, no matter how famous, you're always going to be that kid who dreamed big. And that's something no one can take away from you." The conversation hung in the air, a promise of greatness that felt real, palpable. Marcus's journey had only just begun, but today had been the first step towards something incredible. As Marcus walked off the court, the gym emptied slowly, but there was a buzz in the air that couldn't be ignored. The players were still talking about him, discussing his moves, his confidence, and his sheer heart. LeBron lingered for a moment, watching the boy leave. There was something about Marcus that had reminded him of himself, back when he was young, hungry, determined, and unafraid to chase after his dreams no matter the obstacles. For Marcus, it wasn't the end of a game, it was the beginning of a lifetime of challenges. The road ahead would be hard, there would be setbacks and struggles, but he had learned something invaluable today. Greatness wasn't just about talent, it was about the courage to step onto the court, to keep pushing, and to never stop learning. And as the last of the players filed out of the gym, LeBron couldn't help but feel a little bit lighter. He had witnessed something truly special today, not just a young boy's talent, but the kind of heart that could move mountains. As he walked toward the locker room, LeBron couldn't help but smile, knowing that somewhere out there, Marcus's dream was alive, and that one day, he might just see that dream realized on an NBA court. As Marcus walked off the court, the weight of the day settled in. He gripped his basketball tightly, the smooth surface cold against his skin. The noise of the gym, the sounds of sneakers squeaking and basketballs bouncing, slowly faded into the background as he made his way to the door. His mind raced, replaying the game over and over in his head. He had done it, he had faced LeBron James, the greatest basketball player of his generation, and had not only held his own but had impressed him. The moment felt unreal, like a dream that was too big to fit into his small life. But then, just as he was about to step through the door and leave the gym, a voice called after him. It was familiar, calm, and filled with the kind of warmth that only someone who had seen it all could offer. "Hey, Marcus. Don't stop dreaming, all right?" LeBron's voice carried across the gym, cutting through the noise and making Marcus stop in his tracks. He turned around, his heart racing with excitement and a sense of fulfillment that he couldn't fully explain. LeBron was still standing near the court, his towering figure now a shadow against the dimming lights of the gym. Marcus's eyes gleamed with determination, and a small but confident smile spread across his face. "I won't see you in the league, LeBron." It wasn't just a simple response. It was a promise. A promise that burned brightly inside him, stronger than any doubt or fear that had ever clouded his path. He had stepped onto that court as just a kid, no last name, no flashy credentials, nothing but a ball and a dream. But now, he was leaving with something far more valuable, the belief that he could make it. No matter how big the obstacles, no matter how tough the journey ahead, he knew that he could do it. As he walked out of the gym and into the cool evening air, a sense of peace settled over him. The city lights twinkled in the distance, and the hum of life outside continued as usual. But for Marcus, everything had changed. He wasn't just a 6-year-old kid who loved basketball. He was a future NBA player. The road ahead would be long and full of challenges, but he was ready. And more importantly, he knew that he was never alone on that path. He had the support of those who believed in him, including the man who had inspired him most, LeBron James. The gym, once filled with laughter and disbelief, now felt silent in his mind. It was as if the entire world had paused just for a moment to acknowledge that something extraordinary had happened. And as he walked away, he could feel the weight of that moment, the weight of all the dreams he had ever had, pushing him forward. But as he turned the corner and disappeared into the night, something powerful lingered in the air. Sometimes, the smallest players make the biggest impact. Sometimes, it's the ones who seem the least likely to succeed who end up changing everything. And sometimes, all it takes is a little courage, a spark of bravery to make even the greatest players stop, take notice, and believe. Marcus's journey had just begun, and the road would be hard. There would be setbacks, doubts, and struggles along the way. But in that moment, he knew one thing for sure: he would never stop chasing his dreams. He would never stop believing in himself. And no matter where life took him, he would always carry with him the lesson that had been so clearly shown to him that day. It wasn't the size of the player, the number of years spent in the game, or the fame that mattered. What mattered was heart. The heart to keep pushing, the heart to keep trying, and the heart to always believe that, no matter the odds, anything was possible. As Marcus made his way into the night, his steps were steady, each one more confident than the last. He was no longer just a boy with a dream. He was a boy on his way to making that dream a reality. And no matter how far the journey, no matter how difficult the path, he knew one thing for sure: he would never stop. For the first time, Marcus truly understood the power of dreams. Because sometimes, all it took was one step, one bold move, to make even the biggest names stop and realize that greatness could come from anywhere and anyone. The NBA might be full of stars, but it was the ones who dared to dream and work for those dreams that shone the brightest. And as for LeBron, he knew he had just witnessed the beginning of something special. He had seen a little boy with a big heart, and he had seen that fire in his eyes, the same fire that had driven him to greatness. Maybe, just maybe, one day, that same fire would light up the NBA in ways no one could imagine. But for now, Marcus was just a kid with a basketball, a dream, and a promise that he would keep. And the world, in all its vastness, was waiting for him to show what he could do. It was a story that was just beginning, but one that already held the potential for greatness. And one day, when Marcus did make it to the NBA, people would look back on this day and say, that's when it all started. The smallest players, it turned out, sometimes make the biggest impact. And all it takes is a little courage to make the greatest take notice.